Okay, guys, this is the review for the test that you guys are having tomorrow, okay? Just a reminder, if you're going to bring a calculator, don't bring a scientific or a graphing calculator. Okay, let's start with number 1. In problem number 1, all you need to do to find the two coterminal sides, it's to add, you're going to add 360 degrees and subtract 360 degrees to the angle. So it's 108 plus 360. So you add them up, and that's 468. And then to the 108, you're going to subtract 360, and that's negative 252. So that is A. Number 2. The easiest way to do that problem is just to approach it as adding 2 pi. So you need to add 360, which is 2 pi, and subtract 2 pi. So what you're basically doing is just adding 2. I'm not going to worry about the pi yet. And when you add 2, it's 2 wholes, which is in every whole you have 7 parts. So how many 7s do you have in 2 wholes? Well, that's going to be 14. So that's the same thing as 14 7s. And then just combine, add them up, that's 19 7s. And if you want, just add the pi after that. Add the pi, so the answer should have a pi. And then when you do the same thing with 5 over 7 minus 5 over 7 minus 2, again, the 2 is just 14 7s. When you combine that, that is negative 9 over 7. And then just put your pi on the side. So the answer to this problem is letter C. Problem number 3. In number 3, it says, determine whether the given function is positive or negative for the values of t in the specified quadrant. Okay, so first of all, you got to write your quadrants, which is with the cast, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the one that you want to know is, you want to know what is sine in the 4th quadrant. So 4th quadrant, well, the one that is positive on the 4th quadrant is cosine. So sine, it's negative. So it's B. Problem number 4. For number 4, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to draw an x and y axis where you can plot the point -1, -5. So when you plot the point -1, -5, -1 is to the left, -5 is going down. So your point is over here on the 3rd quadrant. Then from the point, you're going to draw a ray going to the origin. Okay? And then with that ray and the x-axis, you're going to have theta as a reference angle. And then from there, you can go ahead and draw the triangle. You can say, well, in this triangle, you have a -1 on the x, a -5 on the y, and the hypotenuse is just -1 square plus -5 square. Then you just simplify, that's 1, that's 25. So that is just the same thing as square root of 26. So square root of 26, that is the hypotenuse. Then you go back and you check, okay, what do they want? They want cosine. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. From theta, This is the adjacent, -1, adjacent. And then the hypotenuse is where you have the square root of 26. So the answer is -1 over the square root of 26. But then don't leave it like that because you need to rationalize. So you multiply top and bottom by square root of 26. And the answer would be -1 square root of 26 over 26. So that was number 4. Number 5. And problem number 5 says determine the sign if it's positive or negative based on what is given. Well, first of all, you need to know where your angles are. Okay? So it's a negative pi over 6. This is like 180. Okay? Pi means 180 divided by 6, so that is 30. So you get 30, and it's -30. So I have to go down. This is -30. Okay? So you always draw a ray on the terminal side. So this is 30. Okay? That's going to be the reference angle. And then you draw your triangle. So the triangle that you have to look at, it's this one over here. Across from the 30, it's -1. Why negative? Well, because it's going down. The adjacent would be square root of 3. The hypotenuse would be 2. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. You don't have to get those values. I got so excited about this. All they want to know is if it's negative or if it's positive. Well, for that, you have to go with the cast. I was ready to get the value of sine, but now you don't need to do that. So what is sine in that quadrant? Well, the only one that is positive is cosine in this quadrant. So sine, then it's negative. Okay, so it's negative. So that would be B. Okay, next. Problem number 6. In number 6, all they want is cotangent. See here, you have to get the value. Okay, so let me just draw this a little bigger. So they have the coterminal angle. The coterminal side is this one right here. So that is the one that I drew. So this is the theta. So then what is the opposite? Well, the opposite is going to be the y value on the point, this point right here. So that would be 3. So this is 3. Okay. Then the x, well, that's negative square root of 5. And since they went cotangent, if you remember, the cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Tangent is opposite over the adjacent. So I just need to get my adjacent side over the opposite side. So the adjacent and the opposite. So that would be negative square root of 5 divided by 3. And that is option D. So D is the right answer. Next, number 7. In problem number 7, you need to know where your angles are located, okay? So it's a negative, you have to go clockwise direction. Okay, so this is 90, 180, 270, 300. So it's somewhere here. That is negative 300 degrees because you go in that direction. Okay, so if that is negative 300, my reference angle would be 60. So this is 60 degrees. And the opposite to the 60 degrees, it's a square root of 3. The adjacent is 1. Hypotenuse, it's 2. So what would be the point? The coordinates of the point, well, the x is 1 and the y is the square root of 3. So the coordinates of that point would be 1 square root of 3, which is C. Number 8. So for problem number 8, this one, you need to know where the negative 5 pi over 4 is. You can change it into degrees, but also every time you have a 4 in the denominator, that is coming from a 45-degree angle. Okay, so it's 5 45s. So what I can do, I can say, well, I'm going to break this into 4s. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I break this into 4s, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want 5 4s in the negative direction, so I have to come this way. Okay, so this would be the angle that is negative 5 4s, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So this is it. So I get that terminal side, and then so from here to here, from the 0, this is negative 5 4 pi's. And then they want the cosine value for that. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be 45. The reference angle is 45. So this is 1, 1, and square root of 2. Or you can use any of the other two if you want to. So cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. The adjacent, okay, well the adjacent is 1, and it's negative because it's going to the left. So then my answer should be negative 1 over square root of 2. Then you rationalize. When you rationalize, that would be negative square root of 2 divided by 2. And that is C. Okay, now this is what I covered in class. Now let me move on to the second. Okay, on number 9, first of all, you need to make sure you know where to put the angle. Okay, and the angle here, it's 4/3 pi. So what is 4/3 pi? You know, if you don't know what that is, what you can do, you can say, well, this is a third, which is 60, right? So you can say it's 4 60s, because pi over 3 is 180 divided by 3, that is 60. So it's 60 times 4 is 240 degrees, if you want to look at it that way. Or I can also say that, you know, if I sketch that, this is by thirds, this is 60, 4/3, or 1 and 1/3. Also, if I rewrite it into a mixed fraction, so 1 complete pi, it's here, and then 1/3, which is 60. So that is the terminal side. Okay, so it's going to be in this quadrant right here. So let me just draw that. So it's going to be 60. Then you always draw it into the quadrant, okay, with the right angle, with the x-axis. Okay, now let's put the values. When you put the values, that's going to be, well, across from the 30, because this is 30, it's, in this case to the left, is negative 1, and then this is negative, hold on, okay, negative the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. Then when cosecant, okay, well, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, and sine is opposite, it's opposite over the hypotenuse, so then cosecant would be hypotenuse over the opposite. From 60, that's the opposite, and 2 is the hypotenuse. So that would be 2, let me just write it on the side, 2 divided by negative the square root of 3. And then you need to rationalize. Multiply top and bottom by square root of 3. So the answer would be negative, because I have a negative on the bottom, I just carry it on top, 2 square root of 3 divided by 3. And that is C. So the answer is C. Number 10. In problem number 10, you need to find out where the 150 degree is. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and sketch that angle, 150. So I start at the 0, 90, 160. So this would be 150, I'm sorry, 150. The reference angle here would be 30, because 180 minus 150, that is 30. and then you draw your triangle. Okay, one more time. Let me label this. Across from the 30 is 1. Then the adjacent is the square root of 3. And the hypotenuse is 2. They want cosine, which is adjacent over the hypotenuse. The adjacent is the square root of 3 and the hypotenuse is 2. And that's the answer. Letter C. Number 11. Secant of 120. Okay, secant of 120. First, you need to sketch 120 degrees. That would be on the second quadrant. So this is 90 plus 30 more. It's 100. I clicked the pause, so I'm sorry. So first you have to sketch the 120 degree. So you sketch the 120. Once you have the 120 degrees, you're going to get the reference angle, which is 60. And then you draw the triangle. Then across from the 60, well, that is the long leg, and the long leg is the square root of 3. The short leg is -1, hypotenuse is 2. And they want secant, and the secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So it's hypotenuse over adjacent. Hypotenuse is 2, adjacent is -1, so the answer is -2, which is B. Next problem, number 12, 180 degrees. Okay, well for this, because you're going to have one of these, one of those that is on an axis, either the y-axis or the x-axis. So what you need to do is, first of all, sketch your circle. Okay, so here's your circle. Now they want the 180 degrees. Well, here's the 0. On the left side is the 180. Get your coordinates of that point, and that would be -1, comma 0. Now something that you have to remember is that cosine is the x coordinate, sine it's the y coordinate. Here they want cosine, which is the x coordinate. So the answer is -1. If they wanted, like, for example, sine of 270, just to give you another example, sine of 270. Well, that is this point, that's 270, this is 270 all the way to here. So you get the coordinates of that point, 0, -1, and then if you remember, sine is y, so the y value, it's -1. So the answer would be -1. Okay, so just in case you have something like that. If it's tangent, opposite of the adjacent, or in this case, tangent, let me just put it here. If they ask you for tangent, tangent is sine over cosine, which is y over the x. Okay, so just in case, they give you a tangent, tangent would be that. Number 13. It says solve, evaluate without using a calculator. Okay, one more time. This is just like the quiz, numbers 1, 2, and 3. First thing you need to do is go with the last restriction and make a little note there. What is tangent less than 0? Well, that means that you want tangent to be negative. Okay? Now, when you go with a cast and you need to eliminate 2, well, eliminate where tangent is positive because you want tangent negative. Well, it's positive on the first quadrant and on the third quadrant. Then the second restriction, you want cosine positive. So positive, well, it would be on the fourth quadrant, so I'm going to eliminate the second one. Then you draw the triangle. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. Adjacent, that is 2. Over the hypotenuse, that is 5. So here, what do they want? They want sine. So I need the opposite side because it's missing. So to find that side, what I can do the Pythagorean theorem. So I can do the square root of, when you use the Pythagorean theorem, that would be 2 squared plus, the y value square, and then equals to 5 squared, right? So then when you solve for the y, that's going to be the square root of 5 squared, and then minus 2 squared, because you move to the right. So that would be the square root of 25 minus 4, which is square root of 21. So that is the opposite side. And it's negative because it's going down. So if you want the opposite over the hypotenuse, because you need sine, well, that's going to be negative square root of 21 over the hypotenuse, that is 5. And that is D. Number 14. Find the amplitude. Okay, the amplitude is just the number in front of the sine or cosine, but is the absolute value of that. So the answer is 2, B. Number 15. In problem number 15, you have to get the period. And as you know, the period is a number right next to the x. The formula for the period, it's 2 pi over b. So when you have 2 pi divided by 1/2, well, just keep in mind that 2 pi you can multiply by the reciprocal of the 1 over 2, which is 2. And that is 4 pi. That is D. Next, number 16. What are the changes that you're finding here? Well, first of all, there's going to be a reflection over the x-axis because of this negative. Okay? 3, it's a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. 8, you first need to get the reciprocal of the 8, which is 1/8. So that's going to be a horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/8. So all those, let's see, reflection across the x-axis, not this one. Reflection across the x-axis, it could be this one. Vertical stretch by 3. Horizontal stretch, oh, not a stretch. Okay, there's got to be a shrink, so that's not right. Letter C, horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/8. That's one. Vertical stretch by a factor of 3. That's the second one. That's the one in the front. And is reflection across the x-axis. So that is C. Next, number 17. Okay, number 17. First thing is reflection across the x-axis. This is reflection across the y. No. Okay. B, reflection across the y. No. C. Okay, that one has reflection across the x-axis. So it could be this one, C or D. Now let's check on the other stuff. The 6, it's a vertical stretch by a factor of 6. Well, this one has it, C. Vertical stretch by a factor of 6. This one has it. So it could be C or D. Now, what about the pi over 5? We'll get the reciprocal of that. The reciprocal of pi over 5, it's 5 over pi. As you know, pi is approximately 3.14. So it's 5 divided by about 3.14. And what's going to be the answer for that? Well, that's going to be about 1 point something. So that means that it's going to be more than 1. So it's a horizontal stretch because it's more than 1. By a factor of what? Of 5 over pi. Okay, so that is letter C. Horizontal stretch by a factor of 5 over pi. So the answer is C. Next, let's move on to the next page. Okay. Problem number 18, maximum and minimum. Well, there's going to be a maximum. If you could please, memorize the formulas. For the maximum, it's the D plus the absolute value of A. And for the minimum, it's the D plus or minus the absolute value of A. Minus absolute value of A. Now, we don't have a D here, so that's just 0. So the absolute value of 6, of negative 6, it's 6. And then minus the absolute value of negative 6, that would be negative 6. So 6 is the maximum, negative 6 is the minimum. That's A. Number 19. It says to find the specified quantity. Okay, well, they want the period. Okay, so I need to find the period. And the period, the formula for the period is 2 pi over b. And b is the number in front of the x, so it's divided by 8. Be careful here because you need to reduce. By 2 is 1, by 2 it's 4. So the answer, it's pi over 4. It's not 4 pi. Be careful. It's pi over 4. That's B. Phase shift. For the phase shift, I just let the inside of the parentheses equal to 0. Be careful here when you divide by 3. Okay? You first move the negative pi over 3. And then you're going to have 3x equals negative pi over 3. The best thing to do in something like this is to just cross multiply. Make it a proportion and then cross multiply. That way you can have 3x times 3, it's 9x. 1 times negative pi, it's negative pi. Divided by 9, x is negative pi over 9. And that is a phase shift. So it's B. Number 21. 21, it says find the vertical translation. Okay, vertical translation. If you recall, the formula for the sinusoid is f of x equals a sine of, let me erase this space right here. I couldn't erase it. Let me just erase the whole thing and move it to the other side. A little more to the other side. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so then the formula is f of x equals a sine of bx plus c and then plus d. But the formula, that plus d could be given in the front also. Okay, so it could also be given like this. So d could be at the end plus something, or it could be in the beginning. Okay, in this case it's at the beginning, is over here. So that is a vertical translation. That's 5, and that's B. Number 22, they want the amplitude, the period. Oh, they have that information. Okay, so the amplitude is 4. The period, which the formula is P equals 2 pi over B. They're saying that is pi over 6. So instead of P, I'm going to put pi over 6. And that's equals to 2 pi over B. So first of all, I need to find out what B is. So I cross multiply. Pi B equals 12 pi. I'm going to let the phone ring, okay? So I'm sorry about that. I'll get that phone call later. I'll return the call. Okay, so anyways, B, it's 12. And now that I know what B is equals to, the formula for the phase shift. The formula, phase shift, it's negative C over B. Thank you, Jonathan. Now, the phase shift they're giving me is 1/3. And B is 12. So all I have to do is just find the value of C. So I cross multiply 12 negative 3C I divide by negative 3, so C is equals to negative 4. There you go. So I got everything, A, B, and C. So I put it into the formula for the sinusoid, and that would be y equals, amplitude is 4. This is a sine curve, so I need to use a sine, not cosine, is sine of 12x, and then plus the C, which is negative 4. Negative 4. And that's the answer. That's the answer. So that is letter B. Okay? Now, as part of this review, make sure you go back and you study, the formulas, not the formulas, but the graphs on how to graph. So if you want to practice some of the problems, I can go ahead and okay, so let me give you these problems over here. Practice with graph, y equals 2 cosine of 3x. How's that? Number 2, let's practice with y equals negative 3 sine of 1/4 x. Okay, so in this case, and you know what? Let me make this a little bit more interesting. Let me put here a minus 1. How's that? Minus 1 on the first equation. The second equation, let's make this to be plus 2. Okay, so first of all, I have a minus 1 that I added to the equation just to make it a little more fancy. So this graph is going to be at negative 1. So at negative 1, I'm going to have the new x-axis. Then I have a 3 as the b. Okay, so on my 4 markings that I have on the x-axis, you know that one of them is pi, the other one is 2 pi. Well, all you have to do, if you think about the transformations, what the 3 is doing is just multiplying by a factor of 1/3. So just do that. When you multiply by 1/3, it's like dividing by 3. So divided by 3, divided by 3. So those are going to be the new marks, okay? And then you do the same thing to the left, okay? You just continue going to the left. I'm just going to show you the one to the right. So here, cosine. Well, cosine, if you remember from the unit circle, cosine, it's the x value. So this is 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. So the cosine is the x. So we're going to use the 1, 0, negative 1, and 0, okay? So, but instead of starting at 1, I have an amplitude of 2. So this is 1, this is 2. So I have to start at 2. Then it goes to 0, which is your axis, your new axis. Then it goes down to negative 2. I was at negative 1, this is at negative 3. So the next marking should be a negative 3. Then it's the next one, it's 0. So that would be on the new x-axis. And then it's 1, which goes back to 2 units. So it would be up here. And then just connect. Please make sure you do parabolas, not V shapes, okay? And then just continues, as you continue to the left. And then it just, keeps on going to the left. But that's the graph for 2 cosine 3x minus 1. Now let's do number 2. For number 2, I'll go ahead and do the same thing, but I'm going to do left and right, okay? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 markings. 2, 3, 4. It starts at 2. 1, 2. So that's going to be my new x-axis. Then on the markings, what I need to pay attention to is that this is a 1/4. So if you think about the transformations, it's a vertical stretch, not vertical, horizontal stretch by a factor of 4. The reciprocal of this is 4. So where I have my pi and where I have my 2 pi, I need to multiply by 4. So when you multiply by 4, what you end up having is 4 pi, and instead of 2, 2 times 4 is 8. So it's -4, and -8 pi. Now, where am I going to start? Well, I'm going to start, since it's sine, you start on your 0, which is in this case your new x-axis. And then you have -3. So from the 0, as you recall, sine, it's the y-axis. So I'm going to have to go 0, 1, 0, -1. But it's -3, so it's going to be 0, -3, 0, +3, 0. Okay? So let me put the points. 0, -3, 1, 2. I need to add one more here. 3. Then 0, +3. I'm at 2, 3, 4, 5. So the point would be at 5. And then down to 0. If I continue to the left, I'll go up to 5, then to 0, then down to -1, then to 0. And then you gotta do parabolas, okay? Not V-shapes. And then just make sure you put the arrows, because I don't want to take off points where you say that it's just up to there. No, it's not up to there. It continues, so you gotta put arrows, please. Okay? And then also make sure you practice along with this on getting the equation. Okay? So an example that I can give you of something like that is if I give you a graph, and that graph, let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if I tell you this is half a pi, this is pi, this is 3/2 pi, and this is 2 pi, then I'll do the same thing to the left. -half a pi, -pi, -3/2 pi, and -2 pi. Then my graph, it's going to be, so you're going to have the graph going like this. That's going to be the new x-axis. Okay? And then you have the graph going so start thinking about what would be the equation for something like this. Okay, so tell me what's the equation of this graph. Okay, so think about this one before you take the test. I'll give you the equation to this graph. You have a wonderful afternoon, good evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll be in my classroom tomorrow for tutoring in the morning at 7:45. Okay, you take care.